This is
She was helping me to escape.
No, that's what I was.
In a retro-futuristic version of the 1960s, a superhuman named Robert Bob Parr, better known by his superhero alias Mr. Incredible, fights crime as an undercover superhero using his powers of super strength in the city of Metroville, a parody of Metropolis. One afternoon, while on the way to his wedding, Bob helps an elderly woman with her cat, stops a police car chase, prevents the suicide of the local bank president Oliver Sansweet, and attempts to prevent a French clown-like supervillain named Bomb Voyage from robbing the Metroville bank. Whilst attempting to save the bank, a 10-year-old fanboy named Buddy Pine wants to be Mr. Incredible's sidekick and unintentionally interferes, causing Bomb Voyage to get away and blow up part of a monorail system.
Well, not every superhero.
Buddy, don't!
It'll only take a second, really.
No, stop! There's a bomb! I'm trying to help!
Well, yeah. Skippy here made sure of that.
Incredible.
You're not affiliated with me!
What about Bon Voyage?
Any other night I'd go after him myself, but I've really got to go.
But don't worry!
Bob makes it to his wedding late and marries his longtime girlfriend Helena Truax, better known by her superheroine alias Elastigirl, who is also a superhuman and is capable of changing the shape and size of her body via stretching. Shortly after their marriage, Mr. Incredible is sued in Superior Court by Oliver Sansweet and the injured train passengers, leading to the government eventually banning all superhumans from using their superpowers in public. 15 years later, Bob and Helen are now living a quiet suburban life with their 3 new children: Violet Parr, a 15-year-old social outcast who has the powers of invisibility and force fields; Dashiell Robert Dash Parr, a 10-year-old sporty troublemaker who has the power of superspeed; and Jacob Jack Parr, an infant capable of multiple superpowers unknown to the family. The family is often now struggling with everyday life problems and is sometimes dysfunctional, and Bob is bored with his new job as a clerk for the business company Insuricare, thus secretly trying to sneak out at night as a masked vigilante with his longtime best friend Lucius. Best, better known by his superhero alias Frozone, who is also a superhuman and has the power of freezing things. One day, Bob loses his temper with his grumpy boss, Mr. Gilbert Huff, who refuses to let him stop a nearby mugging during a private meeting, and Bob angrily smashes him through the office and is fired. When he arrives home, worrying what Helen will think, Bob finds a message from an overseas scientist named Mirage, who tells him she is working for a base on a remote island, and they need his help to shut down an out-of-control AI-controlled robot known as the Omnidroid, which is terrorizing their laboratory. Bob sees this as an opportunity to become a superhero again and leaves, telling Helen that he has been sent to a conference. As Mr. Incredible, Bob is flown overseas to a tropical jungle island. Mirage warns him that the Omnidroid has an advanced artificial intelligence and is designed to teach itself, so that Bob should not fight it too much.
It's a learning robot. Every moment you spend fighting it only increases its knowledge of how to be.
Bob lands in the jungle, and the Omnidroid appears, revealing its appearance as a gigantic octopus-like droid. Bob battles with the machine, finding it almost invincible, but eventually manages to destroy it in a volcano. After he is sent home, Bob notices a tear in his costume and seeks the help of his fashion designer, Edna E. Mode. Edna tells Bob that he cannot use a cape during battles due to many superheroes in the past dying from cape-related accidents, and she designs him a new red and yellow suit to replace his old blue and red suit. Incorrectly assuming he has told his family about going back into superhero business, Edna decides to design new suits for the entire family. Bob is sent back to the island to have a meeting with Mirage, but when he arrives, he discovers that Mirage is really a secret agent who is the second in command for a crime lord and serial killer known as Syndrome, and his mission was only a test for the Omnidroid's abilities. Bob is attacked again by the now updated Omni droid and Syndrome appears. Syndrome reveals himself to really be an adult Buddy Pine who now seeks revenge on Bob for rejecting him as a sidekick. Syndrome throws Bob into a lake and attempts to kill Bob with a miniature bomb, but Bob escapes via swimming through a cave, though Syndrome assumes him to be dead.
Life reading negative. Mr. Incredible terminated.
At nightfall, Bob sneaks into Syndrome's secret base lair and looks into his computer files. Bob finds that Syndrome has been secretly planning and thus far succeeding in a mass genocide scheme known as Operation Kronos, and has been testing previous Omnidroid replicas via killing past superheroes and has plans already to kill Helen. Suddenly, Mirage catches Bob, and Syndrome has him imprisoned. Meanwhile, Helen notices the tear in Bob's costume and visits Edna to have it mended. Edna, assuming she knows what Bob has been up to, shows Helen all the suits she has made for the family. Helen, now confused and concerned, calls in Shuricare to make sure she knows where he is, but is surprised to discover he has been fired. Using Edna's suit tracking device, Helen finds that Bob has traveled to a tropical remote island. She takes the new suits home and borrows a jet from her longtime pilot friend, Snug Porter, and uses it to pursue Bob. Helen soon realizes that Violet and Dash have snuck into the plane, angering her, but also prompting her to fear for their safety. Syndrome tracks them down and attempts to kill them with missiles, but Helen manages to save her kids as the plane explodes, although Syndrome assumes them to be dead.
We're not gonna. Look out!
Was destroyed.
You'll get over it. I seem to recall you prefer to.
Helen shifts her body into speedboat shape and manages to bring her children to the island. Overnight, they camp in a cave, and Helen leaves to find Bob, telling the kids that they must use their powers in case of emergency. The kids eventually escape the cave by morning, after realizing it was part of a volcano. They are picked up by Syndrome's henchmen who they battle with. After Bob is freed by Helen and Mirage, although Helen becomes suspicious about Bob having a relationship with Mirage, they join their kids into the battle. This is all eventually broken up by Syndrome, who imprisons them all. Syndrome reveals his evil plan to the family, that he will become the hero he dreamed of being by pretending to save the world from his own creations and selling superhero inventions so that everyone will have fake superpowers of their own and mutant superhumans will no longer have a place in the world. Syndrome unleashes his most biggest and powerful Omnidroid replica on Metroville and pretends to battle with it by remote controlling it and using his gadgets on it. But, due its artificial intelligence, manages to outsmart him and knocks away his controller and knocks him unconscious. The family are broken out by Violet with help from the reformed Mirage and use one of Syndrome's jets to fly to Metroville. With the help of Frozone and Syndrome's remote, they manage to destroy the Omnidroid by smashing one of its claws through its power source.
The remote control!
Wait a minute.
Press that button again!
Not yet!
What are you waiting for?
A closer target! You go!
When Syndrome awakens, he is jealous to find that the Incredibles are now accepted by the public as superheroes despite the law, and he vows revenge. After they are transported home, the family finds Syndrome attempting to kidnap Jack-Jack. When Jack-Jack awakens, Syndrome threatens him, and Jack-Jack manages to use his own powers to traumatize him and force him to let go. A traumatized Syndrome attempts to escape in his plane, but is sucked cape first into the jet's engine, killing him and causing the plane to crash on their house.
Everything is all right.
Months later, the family have moved to a motel. Dash is a champion at the school athletics, and Violet asks out her boyfriend Tony Anthony Ridinger. As the family head home, a gigantic drilling war machine appears, driven by a Meaner-like supervillain with a mole-like face. The criminal gives him name as the Underminer and declares war as the family grin in their suites and to know they must save the world.